My name is Dr. Lee Newman, and I would personally like to welcome you to this introduction to the Chiropractic Associate Mastery Program, leveraging your practice success. Here's a promise. Since 1986, I have built 15 offices and helped literally hundreds of DCs build the practices of their dreams. Many of these practices continue to be some of the largest fee-for-service practices in the world. If you strive to build and maintain a 200-plus visit-a-week practice, the next 30 minutes can change your life. So again, welcome to the Chiropractic Associate Mastery Program. What I hope to do in this next 30 minutes is introduce you to my program, the 8 Essentials, share some success stories, and leave you with the #1 skill that we, as the successful chiropractors, must work to continue to develop, refine, and improve ongoingly for as long as we're in practice. My program is dedicated to my father, Dr. Gerald Newman, and the life that I had growing up as his son, the younger of 2 sons, in a chiropractic family. My father graduated from Logan College in Missouri in 1959, started private practice in Western Pennsylvania. In 1960, practiced 34 years in practice, the vast majority of those years, well over 33 of them, practiced by himself as a single solo practitioner. And what this meant is that he had a very important business to run to provide for his family. And back before insurance equality, he would see large numbers of people, but we would eat family dinners at 5 o'clock so that 3 nights a week, he could go back to the office and see patients from 6 to 8 o'clock. He took 1 week of vacation off a year and was seldom ever off for anything else. I can count on my hand the number of times that he stayed home because he was sick. He spent 30 years chasing the numbers every week, every month, every year by himself. And while he interacted and affected the lives of thousands of people and had a dramatic impact in his community, that was still limited by the fact that he was just one man. And I call this whole complex for the successful chiropractor the golden handcuffs of success, where the bigger your practice is, if you're the only producing doc, the more you're tied to the practice. So looking at my father's vacation, understanding that not only did he have the cost of the vacation, but the cost of shutting the office or providing a coverage doc and whatever havoc that might cost, as well as the lost momentum of being out of the office. And this would be the dilemma any time that he would consider doing anything that wasn't in the office. So I really spent my career, and I will talk about that shortly, dedicated to trying to find a solution to that problem. Kind of a history of associates to put things in perspective, and I would ask you again to think about your experience of how you got to the position that you're in, and if you were ever an associate, or if you've had associates, what has your experience been? So typically, it's a 2-year agreement, and maybe it's 18 months or 2.5 years or even 3 years, but it's designed to teach the associate doc how to run a practice. However, it doesn't do that because the senior doc in this arrangement typically handles the control points. Day 1, report of findings, re-exams, and it's left to the associate to service the practice. And what this means is that the associate can get their hands on thousands of patients and deliver thousands, tens of thousands of adjustments. And that's a great lesson for the associate, and it's something that the associate gets when this relationship works well. However, by definition, if the associate is not going to be responsible for and ultimately learn how to do everything to build a practice, then the associate is left missing skills necessary to actually go out on their own. So that's the first challenge I see in chiropractic associates positions. The biggest challenge in all agreements are that there is no expectation, there is no agreement, there is no training, and both the senior doc and the associate is left in what I call a relationship of mutual frustration, where neither side gets what it is that they were looking for. Some other possibilities is have the drone associate, as it is referred to, which is kind of an employee forever doc, where there's no expectation of them doing anything other than adjusting people, or even just having a relationship with a coverage doc, so that if you decide to take a long weekend, you have somebody that is provide stability to your practice. But all of this really reinforces the golden handcuffs, and as I mentioned before, leads to mutual frustration. So my Chiropractic Associate Mastery Program leaves lots of possibilities, all based around the thumbprint that you want to leave. So the first level, the first thing possible to achieve with the C.A.M.P program is to produce a large single office where we're helping more people and creating more profits, while we're also creating a work-life balance for the senior doc. So perhaps it's a 3-doc office doing 400 visits a week or more, over $1 million on a 50% overhead, right? And that practice is a bigger thumbprint than the 200 visit a week solo practice. And I would encourage all successful chiropractors to really work on bringing in at least one associate next to you so that you can start to break the golden handcuffs of success while you're serving more people and paying forward the knowledge that you've learned on how to build a chiropractic practice. For some of us, the mission and the passion, the entrepreneurship is so big, and we want to have a thumbprint so deep that we want to move on to multiple offices. So we want to control a city or work with a group of docs across the country in building a presence in those communities where we're changing the lives of our patients and the lives of our employee docs. There's a couple of other possibilities with my Chiropractic Associate Mastery Program. I've helped many docs end up moving from one city to another. If you're in a successful practice and you're looking to be in a different city, how do you actually do that transfer to where you can end up at least as strong as you were in City B as you were in City A? Worked with several other docs to either just retire and extract the largest equity of their largest asset, in other words, sell the senior practice for as much money as possible, or even to consider retire in practice. And this is where the senior doc, the position that we're in, when it comes time, you decide that you want to work 3 half days or 3 full days or whatever it is that you want to work, but ultimately you sell the rest of the practice to an associate, and then you can kind of come and go as you'd like. So all of those are possible. Here's the commitment that I ask for today. I'd like you to listen actively and not to multitask, is to kind of stay focused. There's about 25 minutes left in this presentation. I want you to hold up what I say to your experience in the real world. I want you to determine if this program could in fact change your life, and if what I'm proposing is the path that you consider taking is to take action today and join my group. So that's the commitment. Take another moment to introduce myself. As I mentioned, I'm Dr. Lee Newman. I'm a second-generation chiropractor. Many stories of going to my father's office as a kid. He had hedges out front. We would ride our bikes over and throw our bikes in behind the hedges. And while I joke, there's a lot of truth that once Little League didn't work out the way that I had hoped, there was nothing else that I wanted to do other than become a chiropractor. And this led to accelerating education, both at the University of Pittsburgh. I entered Life College in January of 1983 at the age of 19. I graduated in June of 1986 at the age of 23, opened a practice on the south side of Pittsburgh in July of 1986. Managed that office to just shy of $1 million while still in my 20s. Ran that office for 24 years. In the course of running this office, both was a management client, having 3 very key relationships with different coaches along my career. And in fact, one teaching me the origins of this program, which is how to successfully run multiple offices. In 1997, I started my first satellite office, have gone on now to have successfully built 15 practices with associates designed to sell to them. 11 have sold. I hope to sell 1 or 2 more even in 2014. Since 1997, I've coached and consulted with hundreds of other chiropractors across the continent. Here's a picture of the main office. As I mentioned, 1986 to 2010, we averaged just over 500 new patients a year for 24 years, over 15,000 visits, over 700,000 collected. And I'm very proud to say now, 4 years later, that it was the best transition in the history of practice sales. So I successfully sold this practice to my senior associate. He had been in the practice for 5 years. He has now owned it for 4 years, has brought young energy into the practice, and has now continued to where this practice has served its community for going into its 29th year. This was the first satellite office. As you can see, it's not the plushest of office, but we served a lot of people out of this practice, and it was really a launching stone for me learning how to do multiple offices. So as I said, we've opened 15. I've sold 11 for cash. I hope to sell 1 to 2 more this year, open 1 new practice this year. Very proud to now be multi-city in our 2nd year in working with a doc in New York City. We actually have a NUCA upper cervical practice in New York City. And, in 14, if I were to go back and look at all of the offices that my thumbprint was on, it's thousands of new patients and really hundreds of thousands of office visits and millions of dollars in revenue. Which brings me to my question of what my future is. And for now, my future is doing more of the same. I want to work with the right young dynamic docs that have this burning desire to grow to an exciting practice. At the same time, work with the docs already established, teaching them the lessons that I've learned on how to leverage your success through other docs. As I've also mentioned before, I'm a big believer in the coaching process. Really, I've been a coaching client, as I mentioned, 3 chiropractic mentors and many other business and relationship and money mentors since 1986. I'm still in a relationship with a business coach and a peer group. I've been coaching since 1997, and in preparation of this presentation, really, I would say that I'm subluxation based, from upper cervical to Logan Basic, anything around structural work. I've worked with some of the physical medicine models. I can work with those docs. I can help those docs. It's not really what my passion is. My passion is to help the fee-for-service, structural-based, subluxation-based, adjustment-based chiropractor to service more people, build more profits, and leverage your success, breaking the golden handcuffs of success. Those of you in the Alignlife tribe listening to this presentation, thanks again for taking this minute. I'd like to sell you now for all of 60 seconds and to be transparent on the relationship. I share with Dr. Joe this mission of delivering chiropractic to as many communities, to as many people as possible. He and I had instant chemistry when we've met. He was gracious enough to invite me to your revolution, and I'm really happy to meet a lot of you guys, looking forward to working with you. My program, we've designed this to be an Alignlife kind of white label product, where the group that I'm offering here will just be Alignlife docs. Normally, it would be $2,400. The rest of this presentation, I'm going to give you data, but this is the sales pitch. So if this makes sense to you, if this is something that you want to learn, it's going to be a 1-year program. And I'll talk about all of the particular takeaways, but you'll get access to me for a year, either $99 a month or a one-time payment of $9.99. It's over 50% off what I've sold the program to dozens, maybe even hundreds of docs. So that's the entire sales pitch. Let's get into it. The 8 C.A.M.P Essentials include having a clear vision, working with the right docs, not needing to reinvent the wheel, work agreements that protect you, train, 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 delegate, don't abdicate, design satellites to sell, and then actually sell them for cash. So going through those, and this is the work that we will do in the course. Each of these essentials has a lesson that we will go through in greater detail. I'd like to highlight some of these areas for you during the rest of this presentation. Having a clear picture. The first question that I will ask any senior doc when they call me with questions about associates is, how do you want the associate relationship that you have today to end? Understanding what the 4 possible outcomes are, what is in it for you for each one, what's in it for the associate for each one, is a critical decision that needs to be made before you even start the relationship. If there's a mismatch, If you want to keep somebody for the long term and they're looking to move on, all right, we can't share the same vision, and so we don't have unified goals. So the basis of a good relationship is that everybody wants the same thing. To have a clear understanding with the associate of what the commitment is, of doing what's necessary to build a practice. And we're going to put them in a position where they're going to need to learn how to do everything to build their practice. So just like you, think about the best chiropractic practice building war story that you have. A picture in my mind is that after a Friday night in suit and tie, organizing or breaking down a bulk mailing that I had in the back of the Northside Pittsburgh Bulk Mail Center on an 80-degree summer night because I did not zip code sort them correctly. And that's one of many stories, and I'm sure that each of you have your own war story to share in this fight. So passing that on and making sure that everybody understands what the commitment is with the associate, but having a clear understanding of also what's possible. So in a 2-doc single office, what's possible? A 3-doc single office, what's possible? Multi-offices, what's possible? And what my concern about right now is you. So as we bring in an associate, service more people, we start to earn this life-work balance. So what is the lifestyle that you want? Right? So is 5 long weekends a year and a 2-week vacation attractive? Do you want to move or retire? Right? So my very first homework assignment to all of you, some free coaching off of this call, is to just create a vision, mission statements, affirmations, and goals. This is an exercise I do with all of my clients in general, but the very first assignment is just what's your vision with an associate? So whether it's at the end of 2014 or maybe the end of 2015 or even the end of 2020, if you had a big vision and you wanted to go out another 30 years to 2044, you know, what would your vision be? I started in 1997 and I wanted to sell 12 offices. So now, 17 years later, I'm coming up to the completion of that major life goal, and, you know, so it's resetting the bar higher, and what do I see now? And again, I think that the Alignlife tribe provides great vision for what you want to do on a unique one-off basis. So what can you bring to that within your own little world within that of servicing a whole community or multiple offices? Essential number 2, right? So after we have a clear vision, it's finding and working with the right docs. This is the first success story I'd like to share. Dr. Shannon Teroff runs a practice on McKnight Road in the North Hills of Pittsburgh. She graduated from Logan in 1999, was finishing her externship, preceptorship as a last quarter or last try student in my office, and was able to graduate on a Saturday and have her license in her hand on a Wednesday and take over an office as a clinic director the day that she got her license, build that practice, buy that practice, transition into a bigger and more beautiful space, and has gone on now to run 3 satellite offices, selling 2 successfully while maintaining one of the largest fee-for-service practices in Western Pennsylvania. And these are the type of docs that you want to work with, where we have shared goals, where I'm going to suggest that your associate, either obviously right next to you, but even in your first satellite office, be, you know, close enough that you can drive within half an hour. So ideally, the first satellite office should be a marketing partner where your primary area ends, that one could start. But what brings the associate to that area? So Peoria, Illinois, or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, why would somebody want to practice in those locations? And you can make an argument for any of those locations, and in fact, I'm going to argue that you should. Practice philosophy. One of the greatest areas of mismatch working with an associate. If an associate, for example, doesn't believe that you should x-ray people, or doesn't believe in corrective care, or believes that they need to take 30 minutes with each patient based on either their school philosophy or how they learned it, it's going to be a mismatch in building a high-volume fee-for-service structural-based practice. Their adjusting skills, right? So there should be a core-level adjusting skill even coming out of school. Some of the schools, aren't as strong in teaching, adjusting as others, and while we can fix anything, my preference is that they have a desire and basic ability to adjust. Beyond all that, there are personality types. There are many different personality tests. I use the Leader, Expressor, Analytical, Dependable. It's probably interchangeable with many others that you've been familiar with. We go through this in the program. There are 16 combination types and personalities, and while any of them can be successful, if I were to tell you that 70% of all successful docs were one of two personality sets, would you be interested in learning how to evaluate that and how to interview for that? So once we really understand what we're looking for, then we go out to try to find the docs. And how do you find them? At the schools, at the boards, at the techniques, in the rags, on the internet. And as we get applicants to go through my 5-part interview process, which gives you a great understanding of where the prospect is. And I will tell you, though, one of the things is that I've made a lot of the mistakes, and even with hiring today, 1 out of 4 hires that I make still today, I will need to go and to replace in a short period of time. But it's to cut that down and to have that 3 out of 4 chance of finding a relationship that can really work. Essential 3 is not to reinvent the wheel, right? So I have developed and worked with many docs, and we have a system in place that can build large single offices, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 visits a week, even, multiple millions of dollars in collections annually. Multiple offices, have coached many docs with multiple offices, have run, as I said, 15 offices myself, personally in touch with senior docs that have run 35 multiple offices, all of which have been successful, leading to tens of thousands of patients, successful associates, practice sales, and as I just highlighted, I've made all of the mistakes, or I'm continuing to make them, and I will bring them to you as I do, but I've made a lot of them that I've now codified and can share to shortcut this knowledge, which can help you in your mission to growing your practice. Another success story, this is Dr. Dan and his wife. She's from Pittsburgh, he's from Massachusetts, but they were in Virginia. As with a lot of both guys and girls from Western Pennsylvania, she wanted to move home. He had a nice practice in Virginia. He was able to sell. He worked with me, and in 18 months, transitioned and bought this practice and was back to where he was in Virginia, but now home with his wife, and they've gone on to have kids and raise a family and, have really done the chiropractic life thing. So essential number 4 are work agreements that protect you. We, the senior docs, have the assets. We have the deep pockets. We have all the responsibilities. The associate wants to be us but isn't, right? So we can't just have a handshake. We must define the relationship, the pay, the benefits, the non-compete. We must be able to have things in place that are enforceable in our areas, in our states, in our cities, that protect us and allow us to develop a relationship with successful associates. So I have, almost 2 decades now of refining work agreements and contracts, and have spent a lot of money in legal fees, and can bring templates to you that I would encourage you to take to an in-state attorney to make sure that you can apply it in your area. Essential number 5, I think it's an area that a lot of us drop the ball, is train, train, train. I had the ability to talk to a McDonald's franchisee while on vacation, and he really took me through the Hamburger U training of a new franchisee, which was hundreds of hours and, a big full-time commitment. Talked to many white-collar executives that claim that at IBM, 30% of a new executive time is spent in training, right? And again, if you were ever an associate, I would ask you to think back of the training that you had, or if you have a current associate, the training that you're currently giving them. And I would offer that this is typically the number 1 reason for mutual failure. We want our associate to do X, Y, and Z, but we never take them in deep detail through X, check it off, through Y, check it off, through Z, check it off. Now do X, Y, and Z together. Okay, now you know it, and now we need to manage it in the real world, right, on an ongoing basis forever, and then reinforce with more training. From day 1, till they no longer work with us. For any of you that know me, my big practice development piece I call chiropractic algebra. I believe that there are 3 basic numbers that drive a chiropractic practice: new patient retention and collections. I want to train my associates deeply in all 3 of those areas. How to generate as many new patients as they need to fulfill their business plan. How to get those people the care that they need, perhaps, a cradle-to-grave concept. How to create lifetime patients. And third, how to do it in a fee-for-service area. So whether it makes sense to take insurance or it makes sense to not take insurance, to be able to be in relationship with the vast percentage of people that we meet, to deliver them the life-changing care that they need, and ultimately to do it in a profitable situation. Essential number 6 is delegate, don't abdicate. This is the back end of training. This is management. We need to continuously provide motivation, training, organize meetings, timely reports, have stats, the scorecard, right? So what are the daily, weekly, and monthly meetings to have? I will go through these in detail. My daily stand-up powwow and the 5-step agenda, the weekly staff meetings, a monthly one-to-one with everybody that reports back to you, and if you get big enough, to provide quarterly live trainings to all of your employees together. Great spirit, great tribesmanship, and can really push your message forward. Lastly is, what's the appropriate social interaction to have with your associates and their spouse and their families? I believe that we should really be investing in our associates, not only as employees, but as people around us. For many of you, really mastering those first 6 essentials to build a large single office that is dynamic, that's profitable, that gives you great flexibility is all that you're looking to do, and I can help you do that. But for those of you that are called, that really have this mission to do multiple offices, I can teach you. Essential number 7 is satellite offices. When is it safe for us to open a satellite office? What are many of the loopholes and things to be aware of in lease negotiation, in office design and build out? How can you open an office with no money out of your own pocket? How fast can you expect to get that office to be operationally profitable? And then the big question becomes is, how do you manage remotely? When you are around everything and you can see it, hear it, taste it, smell it, touch it, right? Managing it is still a skill that takes necessary concern, and you need to be on. But as it gets remotely then is what to be looking for and how to manage when you're not even there. What are all of the interim goals of a satellite practice all the way up to the day that we sell it, which is essential number 8, which is selling a satellite practice. So I'll go through and explain in detail why I think selling practices are important. If you are retiring and you want to leave your legacy office, or you want to retire in practice, some considerations there. How to do the move if that's what you want, to maximize your equity out of the practice so that we convert all of the business risk into cash, and that we help the buying doc find the cash so that we're not the bank until you decide that you want to be the bank. And that we do it in the U.S. the most tax-efficient way, where we can convert a lot of this money into capital gains so that it's taxed at a lower rate than ordinary income. Ultimately, at the end, when it fits your financial plan, if you want to become the lender and the banker, right, to have interest work in your favor instead of paying interest, right, people will be paying us interest, and that becomes kind of a fun day. So those are the 8 essentials. The number 1 skill that we must master is to get production from others. And while it kind of makes sense and it's obvious, I've really observed that this is a completely different skill from learning how to build a practice. We need to lead others so that they can build their own practices. So it is the difference between being the athlete or being the coach on the field. So I would encourage each of us to get deep in book seminars and communities around leadership and mentorship and training and vision and managing employees and hiring employees, right? It's the heavy lifting for us. It's not easy breezy. You just don't snap your fingers and this happens, but it's worth it in the long run. So if we can break our golden handcuffs to success, be able to live with a true work-life balance, taking 6 weeks a year off, or being able to attend most, if not all, of the family events, while at the same time, while teaching others, passing our knowledge forward, we can service more people, create more profits, right? Employ more people and see all of them win. We ultimately can convert the risk into the reward, ordinary income into capital gains, create a golden parachute for docs that are later in life. So this is the number one skill we must master, which is to get production from others. So that's my presentation for today. Camp for Alignlife, right? So it's really I'm looking to do it with just the tribesmen. There will be 8 biweekly group calls where I go through the core curriculum. Once we have the group decided on who's in, we will determine what time these will be conducted live. I'm kind of thinking Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, but it doesn't need to be that time. It can be whatever the group wants it to be. I will record those calls like this so that everyone will have access to the calls. You will get, during the course, during those lessons, the 4-part recruiting template, the sample work agreements, the training templates, the business plans, and I'm adding in my little money management piece, which is, with the increased profits, is to provide a real-world approach for any DC, not only first to get out of debt, but to go on and then accumulate great wealth. I think there's great value in this presentation. It's 2 or 3 hours, and I'm including that in this offer. Sample leases, and any access to any other questions and resources that I have around managing associates. There's over $10,000 in value. Normally I sell it for $2,400, but as I mentioned at the top of the call, as a favor to Joe, to serve the tribe, it's my lowest pricing. You have a choice of either $99 a month or a one-time charge of $9.99. If you're at this level and you want to learn how to work with associates, I think that I can help you. And again, the promise is that your life will look different in 12 months. So look for the link in the email. If you decide to jump in, I'm really excited about working with you. And, you know, we're going to get started in July, and I'm really excited. So jump on that link today, and I will be talking to you guys shortly. Have a great night.